it is a conscious decision, and as you said, we do all of the ancillary support services in this business. KushCo Holdings has now continuously diversified its product lines with multiple acquisitions over the past year. So we brought an energy business that's now Kush Energy. There's a business called Hybrid Creative, so we help people who want to get into this space with branding and logo and web work, etc. We've also created a company called Coletto Packaging that does customized solutions so you can expand your intellectual property. So it's been a very aggressive, conscious move to be a diversified provider of ancillary services.
And revenue up in the latest fiscal year, 177% to $52 million. How much of that gain came from these aggressive acquisitions?
So interestingly, the majority of the gain did not come from the acquisitions. It's all organic growth. So of the 52.1 million, 50 million is from organic growth. The acquisitions were made recently, so we assume that those are going to pay off going forward. But the real growth has been from organic growth, cross-selling and upselling existing customers. Last year, we had 5 major large customers that were doing over $500,000. This year, there were 14. 2 years ago, there were none. So we've been dramatically increasing the size of the customers and then cross-selling to them. This past year, those large customers each bought 45 SKUs from us. So it's a very healthy sign for the business.
I'm curious about the regulatory landscape across the U.S. where cannabis is legal. For example, rules and regulations that govern the cannabis market in California are different than those rules and regulations from Colorado versus those rules and regulations from Nevada. In terms of some of the ancillary products that you make, do you have to make different versions of those products? For example, types of packaging for each state? Or are there actually economies of scale here where you can do one type of product that will adhere to the regulations that are in different states?
So it depends on the state and it depends on the product, but
so
that's one of the things. Right, but that's one of the things we pride ourselves in is being completely compliant and understanding the regulatory environment. We've created the gold standard for compliance, for packaging, including child-proof, tamper-resistant packaging, understanding every single regulation in every state, as well as international. So now we've expanded. We have a footprint in Canada right now, and we are mastering the Canadian legal and regulatory environment as well.
What sort of investment does that take to master all of those different environments?
Well, it's a tremendous investment, but the good news is that the company is growing tremendously. As you said, it's up from 18.8 million in revenue last year to 52.1 million this year. Working capital is now 40.2 million, up from 3.4 million. So it's a tremendous growth that we've seen, and as I said, that is summarized in the upsell that we've done to some of our larger clients.
What's KushCo's competitive advantage here? What's the moat? Because as we've seen, just general economics, when there is an opportunity for money to be made, lots of companies flood that space and it makes it difficult to compete. So what can you guys do that other companies that do this can't?
Well, I think right now it's the diversification. We have a physical presence in the 5 major states that are doing the cannabis business. We've got people on the ground in every facility and every location. So it's both the presence, it's now our financial wherewithal. As I said, we're very strong. We have a lot of working capital. The business is growing tremendously. So it's the presence, and then it's the strategic focus of the senior team. They are on top of all of the opportunities, both through acquisition and organic growth. We've now opened a second office in China. So there's constant pace of acceleration in this team.
So you're opening an office in China. How is that market different than the U.S.?
Well, the China market actually supplies some of our packaging, so that's been a very good relationship for us, but we want to always have people on the ground wherever we're doing business so that we know exactly what's going on.
And is any of the trade war that we see impacting the markets in many of these publicly traded companies a part of that decision?
It hasn't impacted us to date because we've been on top of things, and our products are priced well, and we're always looking for the best cost advantage for our customers. So we haven't felt any pain from it yet. And as I said, the demand just keeps growing. and the growth is continuous.
Do you think that we'll get to a point in the near future where it will be federally allowed? It will no longer be classified as a substance by the FDA?
That's our assumption and our hope, and we're watching a state-by-state sort of move in that direction.
Right, even in the most recent election, 75%.
Right, exactly. So in the most recent election,
yeah.
Michigan voted for adult use. Even states that you wouldn't have expected, Missouri and Utah, voted for medicinal use. Massachusetts is up and running. We just built a new warehouse facility in Massachusetts so we can service the East Coast, and our assumption is that the East Coast might eventually outpace California.
When do you see complete nationwide, similar to what we saw? Well, Canada's not exactly a good corollary because there are some areas that are not completely legal, but something similar and as widespread.
So we think that it could be a few years, potentially 2 years, but we're going to be prepared, and we aspire to be the dominant player in this industry by the time that happens, as we are today.